Welcome to Taking Care of Lady Business, where we put the business back in lady business. Hosted by Jennifer Justice, founder and CEO of the Justice Department, a management strategy and law firm that works with female and woke male entrepreneurs, executives, talent, brands, and creatives to build and maximize their wealth, focusing in the areas of tech, consumer product, finance, media, entertainment, and fashion. Jennifer interviews entrepreneurial women who have done it all, who will be sharing their secrets on all things business, especially as a woman. These highly successful women will share strategies and insights, including what not to do and what it takes to win. And now, here's your host, Jennifer Justice.
Thanks to MedJet for supporting the Lady Business podcast. If you're hospitalized or your security is threatened while traveling, they can get you home. I'm a MedJet member and have been for years. Everyone who travels should be. Enroll before your next trip at medjet.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Taking Care of Lady Business. I'm Jennifer Justice. Today, we have the wonderful Gail Becker on, and she's the founder of CAULIPOWER. Hi, Gail.
Hi, so happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm so happy you're here. You have such a great story. I mean, anybody who's walked an aisle in any store knows of CAULIPOWER. They know of, its benefits. They know it's an alternative, gluten-free, et cetera. But what they probably don't know is how it came about and, where you all started this whole thing, which I think is so fascinating and interesting. So I want to actually start in the beginning. Like, how did you start your career?
Oh, my career. Wow. Well, I'm a strong believer that careers are not like a ladder. They're more like a jungle gym. And I think my career has definitely
that's a great visual.
That. It has definitely been quite the jungle gym. I started out in news. I really wanted to be a reporter, so I was a broadcast news reporter for many years. I worked in many parts of the country, including Washington, D.C., and then following that, I did a stint in government, which was great, and then politics, and then government. And then I worked in Hollywood for a few years, and that was also interesting. And then I worked.
What did you do in Hollywood?
Well, I'm dating myself here. So, but I did the launch of the DVD format.
Ooh,
yes. Yes, I started when I would say to people, well, you're going to see movies on a CD, and they would think I was crazy. So how's that I was obviously very young at the time.
Yeah, you're a child genius. Yes.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, and then following that, I ended up in corporate America, and I worked for a global PR and marketing firm, very large one, for 16 years before I left to start CAULIPOWER.
Amazing. And such a natural pivot. I was in advertising for 16 years, and I started a business based on, exactly. I mean, I love it. You just slide over that. Yeah. It's like.
Well, it is funny. Like it's funny that you call it out, because there really aren't a lot of natural threads in that story, which I guess refers back to my jungle, gym reference, is that, it's okay to pivot, and it's okay to pivot once, twice, and, and sometimes 3 or 4 times until you feel like you get it right.
Okay. But so let's talk about that a little more, because so many people think it's more linear and like a ladder. And I get asked this question a lot, like, how do I take my current experience and do it something else? Because I don't like what I'm doing. What was that thought process for you? Do you even, was there something like, I know I can do this because I'm good at this? Like, how did that work for you?
The thought process was more not, I know I could do it because I would be good at it. In some ways, and this seems odd to admit, but I sort of didn't think about whether I'd be good at it. I didn't think about whether I would be successful at it. It was almost like a calling. I just knew that I needed to do it. But that doesn't mean that there weren't, several inputs that helped me realize that decision. One was, I was very frustrated with corporate life, right? I was just very disenchanted with what I saw. I did work my way up the proverbial ladder. And you know what? when I got to the top, I really didn't like the view very much. And that had been a lot of years climbing, and it left me really unfulfilled. Two was the passing of my father. And I think, in life, when someone close to you passes, you really do understand the fragility of life. And you realize, boy, in whatever time I have left, I better do something that is going to be meaningful to me, or at least, and that I enjoy, or at least have one hell of a time trying. And so when he passed, that was my signal, like, oh my goodness, I need to honor him. He was an entrepreneur. He came to this country with nothing, less than nothing. I'm a first generation American. And I really needed to honor him in some way, and do something more meaningful. And then third, and finally, and in some ways, maybe the least important, was, I'm the mom of 2 boys with celiac disease. I got very frustrated with what I saw the industry was putting in gluten-free food. Probably like a lot of your listeners, I thought, oh, well, one day someone's going to do something.
Right.
So
Can't wait for it to happen. I'll just sit here.
Exactly. But then I thought, oh, I guess no one's going to. So maybe I should do it myself. And I put all of those things in a blender. And what I came out with was, I know I'm going to leave my stable job and start a company called CAULIPOWER. But it's an interesting question, because to be honest with you, whether or not I would be successful just didn't even play into it.
Right. No, it's fascinating. I think, so many people, like I said, go into this and go, oh, okay, well, this is the thing that I'm like, yeah, I went to school for. Like, how do you know it's 18 years old, what you're going to train for in college, and
Exactly.
and then you're supposed to be that forever? Other than like medicine, it's kind of difficult, right?
Exactly. I studied poli-sci in college.
Me too.
And now I'm making pizza. There you go.
Perfect. Yes. I mean,
Perfectly
I did
logical.
poli-sci, and I do have a law degree, but it's not really,
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So you were at the top of this corporate ladder, and you were in advertising at the time, right? Where were you?
I was at Edelman, marketing, communications, PR.
Right. And then you go, okay, I'm going to start this company, CAULIPOWER.
Yeah.
And then how did you even know how to do it? That's one of the things, right? You're in this corporate thing, and all you do is you show up to work, you're a boss, somebody pays, and then that's it. It's like, how do you even know where to start?
It's a really good question. I started with something that my parents, I think, really instilled in me, and that was this love of learning and education. And so I figured I could be a sponge and I could learn the business. And so, what's great about this country is you can actually hire anyone to teach you anything. And that's basically what I did. Is I hired some consultants to teach me about the business. I was like a sponge. I'm still like a sponge. And I learned every aspect of the business. I would go to grocery stores and try and learn how products got on the shelf and how that process works. I hired them to help me find a manufacturer, because clearly I had never manufactured anything before. And so I really just hired people to teach me. And that's what I did. And once I felt like I had learned and could bring on people full time, I let the consultants go and built the business.
And how did you go about building? Like, what's the recipe? How did you know it was like, was that you cooking it in, the kitchen?
Yeah. What's interesting? There are lots of people who start a business, a food business in particular, by making something in their kitchen and then selling it to their friends or bringing it to the farmer's market. That is a great way to start the food business. That was not my way. My way was, I made it one time in my kitchen. I had always been looking for ways to, like all of us, make our kids' meals healthier. And I stumbled across cauliflower crust pizzas on the internet. There were 569,000 recipes the day I looked. I made one. It was okay. It wasn't great. And a couple of weeks later, my eldest son said, "Hey, Mom, are you ever going to make that thing again?" And I said, "There is no freaking way I am making that again, because it took 90 minutes to make a pizza crust after I got home from a full day of work."
Yeah.
But I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll find it for you." And I looked everywhere. I looked in Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and online, and I couldn't find anything. And that's when I had this idea like, huh, I am looking for something. I do want to honor my father, and his entrepreneurial spirit. Maybe this is it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I took the leap. But I did go right to manufacturing. I never, that was the one and only time I ever made a cauliflower crisp pizza from scratch in my kitchen.
So when was the time, when did you decide like, now I'm going to quit? Like, was the company already started? Was it like a side hustle, or did you like?
Yeah, it's a good question. I started for a couple months before I left, just like laying some seeds down, doing some of the paperwork, that kind of thing. And you know what realization I came to? It's very hard to start a company between the hours of 2 and 4 a.m.
Yeah.
It just was impossible. And so that's when I said, got to go all in. And
Yeah.
that's what I did.
And you went literally all in. And what year was this?
That was in May of 2016.
Yeah, that's not that long ago.
Not that long ago. And then we launched in February 2017.
And by launch, you mean like you went on
Brought it
sale
to market.
online?
Yeah. The first pizza was sold in February 2017.
And how was it sold? Like, where would the consumer buy it at that point?
The consumer, so we launched in 30 Whole Food stores in the SOPAC region. So like Southern California, Arizona, Hawaii, but only 30 stores sprinkled throughout that region. So that's where I started.
And how did you, and was it the consultants that they're the ones who like helped you get in there?
Well, it's a good
not so
question.
easy, right?
Some parts, it's funny. The things you think are going to be easy are hard. And the things you think are going to be really hard are actually much easier. So Whole Foods has this wonderful program. No matter where you live, whatever region you live in, you can pitch your product to that region. So for me, I was living in LA. And so I pitched Cauliflower to the SOPAC region. And it was interesting. I still remember the day very well, because you're not allowed to have a meeting with anyone. And so I had my sample pizzas, which, by the way, are the most expensive pizzas ever made, because in this ecosystem, you have to make the product on the line before you can actually sell it and before anyone will buy it. So all the time and energy and money that I had put in was like literally for these 4 sample pizzas. And I brought them in a styrofoam container filled with dry ice, and I had to leave them with the receptionist at Whole Foods. And it was kind of like, I equate it to dropping off your kids in daycare, only worse, really. And I was like, oh, here they are, be careful. Like my life was in that styrofoam box. And then about a week and a half.
So are they supposed to then like eat it, try it, all that?
Yeah. Then the receptionist gives it to the buyer. So you have no idea who these people are. And then about a week and a half later, I got a note from the buyer who said, "We tried your pizzas. We love them. We'd like to bring them into 30 stores."
Wow.
Yeah.
You don't even know if they're gonna like cook it right. Like,
Knew nothing. Yeah. No idea.
Throwing caution to the wind. Yeah.
That's the name of my book, Caution to the Wind.
Okay, so you got in 30 stores from there, right? But that's just the beginning. So then what happens? How does it grow?
So I was in those 30 stores, sold out in 2 days. And then the distributor sold out in 2 days. And so the orders started coming in. They wanted to bring them into more stores within that region. And in March, so that was in February, in March was Expo West, Natural Food Expo West, which is the largest natural food show, I think, in the world. 80,000 people in the Anaheim Convention Center. And I got a table, almost didn't get a table, got a tiny little booth, like ordered my banner from Zazzle. I mean, it was like as bare bones as you could possibly imagine. And I showed up there, and I think that and I only had 2 employees at the time. I think we cooked probably about 1,500 pizzas that weekend. just for buyers and brokers and retailers and everyone. And that was really what sort of sparked the phenomenon. And boy, we got so many people who ordered and were interested, and then we took off from there.
And then so Expo West is expensive though, right? To buy like a booth and stuff.
It is expensive.
Bootstrapping at this point?
Did I what at this point?
Were you bootstrapping at this point, or did
Oh,
you?
yeah. Oh, but yeah, that's why I ordered my banner from Zazzle, and my decoration was literally a basket of cauliflower. That was my decoration. And I think I bought the tablecloths at Target. But yeah, I was bootstrapping, and it was expensive, but I sort of felt like if I was going to do it, I was going all in.
Yeah.
I used to do anything half-assed there, but I just thought, okay, and it's kind of one of the benefits of being a slightly older entrepreneur too. It's like, I don't have any time to waste. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
And so I did do all in, and I'm so glad I did, because I almost didn't go to that show, and I almost didn't get into the show. So it was, I feel like there was lots of fate happening around that time.
Well, and also a really good product that, there was obviously a market fit, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And so is that when did you actually start raising money then, right? Because a lot of people think they have to do it before. You went out, you tested the market, you knew you had something. And is that when you raised money?
So it all depends on, people's individual situations, obviously. Making a bar or a bag of chips is a lot cheaper than making a frozen pizza. I mean, this was a fair amount of money, but I put it all in. So when I say I went all in, I went all in. I maxed out my credit cards. I sold my clothes online. I had some money in the bank. My dad left me a little bit of money, and I put everything, and I mean everything, into this company that I knew nothing about. And today people are like, oh, that's so smart. But it was actually pretty stupid. But I ended up working out. But it's funny because I'm just thinking of this weird analogy. If you could just humor me for a minute. I was learning poker last night, right? Women should be playing more poker. It helps you in negotiation, all of this. Yeah. And I ended up betting. They were fake chips because we were learning, but I ended up betting it all. And I had 2 threes. I had a pair of threes, and I ended up betting it all. Now, as fate would have it, there was a 3 on the table. So I had 3 of a kind, and I ended up winning. Mm-hmm. But the woman who was teaching said, you should have never bet on those pair of 3s. Mm-hmm. You should have never bet. And I couldn't help but think, yeah. And I probably should have never bet on Cauliflower either.
Yeah.
But I didn't bet on Cauliflower. I bet on me.
Yeah.
And I think that's a wonderful lesson for women to take away. And even more than that, to show your kids, like, hey, you should always bet on yourself. Mm-hmm. You should always take that bet. I can't think of a better lesson for the kids that we raise and the women that we cheer on.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Or is that Poker Power? I've done that too. Yeah. And I wasn't like, I wasn't playing by the rules, and I kept winning because what I was doing was betting on myself.
Exactly.
And that my other players were not betting on themselves.
Yeah.
They were doubting themselves.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And taking a risk, which, sort of have to, right?
Yeah.
So
the irony was I was with all really, really, really financially successful finance people. And I was like, I was like, oh, I get it. You're really good at your job because you don't take risks.
Exactly.
You like have calculated risks and
exactly
in your job. But like, I was like throwing again, it was not real money. If it was real money, I probably would have, done it differently. But yes. Sometimes you have to do the thing that nobody thinks that you can do, because what it is your instinct. Exactly. And you knew as a mom of 2 boys with celiac, there is nothing in the market out there. And you knew when everybody was like responding to it, that there was something there. Right. And there's
I felt like, well, it's interesting because yes, obviously we make gluten-free food. All our food is gluten-free. And obviously lots of people who eat gluten-free eat cauliflower. And that's wonderful. And I love that. But that was never the purpose of the brand. And we don't even market ourselves as gluten-free. We make great tasting, better for you products that happen to be gluten-free. And that was a really thoughtful and strategic decision that we took on early on that was basically based on an insight that I had when my kids were little, because their friends would come over and, you'd make like 10 frozen pizzas for everybody. And my sons were always like, "Ooh, don't give our friends the gluten-free pizza, buy regular pizza for them and just give us the gluten-free." And that was such an interesting insight to me. It was like, well, why can't we just all eat the same thing? Even if we all have different reasons for eating it. Maybe you want something low calorie, maybe you want something low sugar, maybe you want something gluten-free, maybe you want just a great tasting pizza. Whatever the reasons are, let's all share from the same place. And that is really the ethos of the brand. We wouldn't be as big as we are if it was only if people only bought us that eat gluten-free.
Right. That's so true. Yeah. Oh, that's just it. Bigger vision, right?
Well, yeah, we're crazier. I don't know. Probably both. I think they're very closely intertwined. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. So talk a little bit about when you started raising money. Like, well, how far in was that? And what was that experience like for you, especially as a woman, as we all have stories?
Yeah. So I started the company in May of 2016. I launched in February of 2017. I got into Walmart in October 2017. We were going into Walmart and I didn't have enough money to make the product for Walmart. So I needed to raise money in September 2017 is when I needed to get the money. So I basically went as long as I could and I had the money last as long as I could. I think it was pretty horrible. And if there's anyone that ever tells you, "Oh my gosh, it's so fun to raise money," I don't know, I wouldn't believe them, but maybe. Yeah, it was awful. It was awful because, first of all, we didn't have an easy time, which I think is kind of remarkable given our early success in Whole Foods, given the fact that we had been accepted into Walmart, and a number of other retailers. And, I don't know why. I could guess, but it was hard.
Wait, what were the excuses people were giving you for not?
They were saying this. Well, first of all, of course, there were those people that said, "Oh, I don't think cauliflower crust pizza is really a thing." So I was like, okay. Then, but the thing I heard most was, "We'd like to see how you do in Walmart. Once we see how you do in Walmart, then we'll give you money." So is it fair to say that women might be given less risk capital and more come back when you're successful capital? Probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
no sense. You're already in, you have 2 massive POs. And
it made no sense. It made no sense. And and lots of men who weren't even in market, right? Totally untested.
Yeah.
People were throwing money at them.
I mean, throwing money at Impossible Burger and all that stuff, which is full of shit, literally.
Exactly. So, I mean, I don't know. Could it be something else? Maybe, but I don't know.
Or the self pizza making machine that everybody lost.
Yes, exactly. Or the self pizza making machine. But
there's so many men that like put money in that, and you're like, what?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. I was really surprised, dismayed. And
here's the other thing of it too, right? It's like, well, wait to see how you do in Walmart. You're going, okay, wait, the valuation of my company is only going to get bigger at that point. So
they don't care because it's not really risk capital. They call it risk capital, but is it really risk capital? That seemed to me like it's not risk capital. It's come back when you're more of a sure thing in capital.
Yeah.
Which was fine, except I didn't need the money then. I needed the money to go into Walmart. So if I didn't get that money, I would never have that opportunity.
Right. Okay. So then you finally raised some money.
I did.
Yes. And from men or women?
So I talked to, I call it the summer of sell because that's all I did in addition to running the company and in addition to everything else. And we talked to probably, I want to say 35 different VCs. Of those 35 different VC groups, I had a conversation. I spoke to 2 women.
Yeah.
And that's like of all the VCs. So if you figure a VC has 5 people, you can do the math. And I spoke to 2 women.
Yeah.
So I did end up taking some money, and that was good. But for a company like Cauliflower, we should have had more options.
Yeah, seriously. All right. So you grew the company. Yes. I mean, back to that a little bit. Like, at least, like I find there's been a massive jump in the amount of female VCs in just that short period of time, because Me Too came out 2017, and now it's been like more and more like across board. Like now private equity, that's totally barren when it comes to women. There's still not that much, but more and more VCs and more women are individually investing, which is great. But you needed that then, not now.
100%. And you're right, it is better. But I will say too, because people say this to me all the time, there are a lot more VCs out there who only invest in women. And that's great. And I love that. And I would love to see 100 times more of that. In any way that I could support those women, I'm all for it. But they don't have as much money.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
They don't have as much money.
They don't raise as much from LPs because it's
exactly
proving out our business model.
Exactly. So if you need a little bit, that's great.
Yeah.
But if you need more.
Are you holding a cauliflower in your hand right now, by the way?
I am. It's my it's a cauliflower squishy. It's a stress ball. It's a stress ball. If you want one, I know where to get one. So
oh my God, that's hilarious. Okay, so cut to you're building the company and you're still running it at this point, right?
Oh yeah.
And how the team is growing, and at what point did you decide to like hire a CEO? Because I know we were just talking about this.
Well, I did run it for a long time. So I started in May of 2016, and I hired a CEO in the Q1 of 2022.
Okay, so not that long ago. What was that decision? What made that decision happen? I mean, you learned so much at that point, right?
Yeah, 7 years is a long time to run a startup.
Mm-hmm.
And every day, and this is not an exaggeration in any way, I was working like 18 hours a day for 7 days a week for 7 years.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't even have the time to talk to you right now.
Yeah.
And what I think what the pandemic made me realize is that I was sort of forgetting to live. I was so like Cauliflower, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's all I thought about. That's all I dreamed about. That's all I could concentrate on. And it wasn't healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, not healthy for me, not healthy for the business either.
Right.
So, I always say Cauliflower is like my third child.
Mm-hmm.
And for anyone out there who's listening, who has children, you would do anything for your child. You need to give it the best fuel you could possibly give it. And that's when it was clear that, now was the time. Also, look, I built it to $100 million.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything else to prove.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to do. I did it, let's go.
Amazing.
Yeah.
$100 million. So what, do you think, for people listening too, I always want people to get tips or things that you could think of or do differently or better or worse or whatever. Do you think you did it too long? Should you have done that, hired a CEO earlier?
If it's an interesting question, I think the pandemic really changed everything. The pandemic was very hard. It was hard for first of all, it was hard for everyone, obviously. It was hard for food companies, healthcare and food companies were just slammed because obviously, we were an essential business, and yet making food and getting food from point A to point B had never been harder or more complicated while you're all working from home. Mm-hmm. And there were so many things that happened during that year. There was a onslaught of competition, all of this, that it was a hard year. I knew I couldn't hand over the reins during that time.
Right.
I needed to get it back to stability, and then it would be time. And that's what I did.
Right. Right. And was it, I mean, once you did make the decision, was it like easy for you to let go? Or was that like, I mean, you said it's like your third child. So
Well, it's not like I've left. I mean,
no, I
right.
know
So,
that. Yeah.
so instead of working 18 hours a day, I'm working 12 hours a day. So
Right.
it's a little bit nicer, but I'm still, I still wake up thinking about Cauliflower and go to bed thinking about Cauliflower, and still obviously very engaged and need to be and want to be in the company. But yeah, it was probably easier than I thought it would be. It was probably easier than I thought it would be. And, and like, I think that's so true in life, right?
Mhm.
So much about life is the anxiety that we sort of build up and think, oh my God, can I do this? It's going to be horrible. It's going to be whatever it is in life. And then you go through it and you're like, okay, well, that wasn't so bad. And yeah.
Well, I
So,
mean, look, you might have worked 18 hours a day for 7 days a week for 7 years, but look what you built, you know?
yeah, thank you. Yeah. And you know what? And even if it wasn't that, because if there's other people out there who are doing the same thing, look, the fact there is nothing I want more than for Cauliflower to be held as an example of what a woman-founded, women-led company can do.
Yeah.
If it does nothing else in life, but it does that, I'm a happy person.
Yeah.
But for anyone out there, if it's not that, if it didn't hit 100 million, if you're struggling, if you're trying to make it work, if you just reached 20 million, whatever it is, people really need to redefine their own sense of success. It's not about money.
Right.
The fact that, I mean, honestly, if you ask me what my personal proudest moment that I did in Cauliflower, sure, I'm proud of, I brought it to 100 million, of course. But I'm really proud that I made the decision in the first place.
Yeah, that you did it, right?
That I did it, because that's the toughest decision. So if there are people out there who are struggling or at 7 million or whatever it is, they all took the hardest decision.
Mm-hmm.
So that you should be so proud of.
Yeah. It's true. Even if it doesn't work, it's like you still took the risk, where so many people are just sitting in the same,
Exactly.
linear job and going, oh, I really wish I could do this, but then never do it. Right. Regret is like a horrible feeling. No, it's very true.
The easiest thing is to stay.
Yeah.
In a job, in a marriage, relationship. That's the easiest thing. Stay.
Right. Yeah.
The hardest thing that people can do is leave or change or face the unknown or risk everything. That is scary.
Yeah.
But boy, it's so worth it. And you're never going to forgive yourself if you don't.
Yeah, it's so true. Good point. Thank you for putting that in perspective. Amazing. Well, I mean, I think it's, what you did and what you've accomplished, and the fact that everyone knows Cauliflower is such a testament to that bravery that you had and did. So what do you think the future of Cauliflower is in growing that brand?
Well, we're really a platform brand now, right? So obviously we're famous for our pizza, and will probably always be. And I'm very excited because we have lots of innovation coming out this year, and some innovation in pizza too, which is really exciting. So we have pizza, we have chicken, and we have pasta and meals. So I think the goal for Cauliflower is, to really be the #1 better for you frozen food company.
Love it.
That's what I have my sights on.
Because ultimately too, frozen food, it's like, it used to got such a bad rap because it was full of crap, right? Exactly. And then, but you're a mom, and you're like, I don't have time to make a meal from scratch. I'm like, I work, I need something quick and easy that I don't feel totally guilty for giving to my kids.
Exactly. And, yes, sure, Cauliflower is about great tasting food, and sure, it's about making food better for you, but it's equally about time
Yeah.
and convenience and anything that is going to give people more time to do what they love.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, I like to think that's why it needed to be started by a mom. And if you think about it, look, the big food conglomerates, which are all in the frozen pizza aisle, they spend millions and millions and millions on R&D every year. Why did it take me, who knew nothing about food, to start Cauliflower?
Yeah, it's such a good point.
Right. And
it's a good point, because it goes to show you too that they might spend a lot on R&D, but they don't know how to do a startup. They buy them.
Exactly. They don't know how to do a startup. And their mind is not, wow, I'm a mom. I don't have time. I don't want to feel like crap about giving my kids something from the freezer. So what's the solution? And so it almost did. So you're taking it back to your original question, like, you had no experience. What the hell were you doing? You said it much.
I don't think I phrased it that way, but yeah.
You did it, but that's what you meant. And that you should have meant that. But the answer is, I think it was that, I don't know. I don't want to say ignorance, maybe naivete.
Yeah.
That allowed me to do it. Because if I were in it, if I were in this crazy business, I probably would have never done it.
Right. So true.
So if anyone's listening and they're in a similar position, ignorance is bliss, I got to say.
Yeah. Yeah. When ignorance is bliss, it's folly to be wise, right?
Exactly.
Amazing. Well, thank you. I know we got to let you go here, but I know that we are talking about any of the listeners. If they want a Cauliflower, how can they get it?
Okay. So I have a very exciting offer because I am a personal fan of yours. So anyone can go on any of our social channels and direct message us, Lady Business, and we will send you a coupon good for any free Cauliflower product, just to say thank you to you and thank you to your amazing listeners.
Oh, thank you so much. This is awesome. I love this story so much. I know when I first met you, I was like, this is crazy. And I love it. And I love this, like, the risk taking and just belief in yourself and a million good lessons. So we've learned a million good lessons. The one question I always ask everybody before they get off is, what's the worst advice you've ever received?
It's such a good question. I think the worst advice I ever received was, well, now I'm going to feel bad because it's going to be good advice for some people, but it was bad for me, which was, keep doing what you're doing, keep putting money away, and you can retire when you're 55.
What are you going to do at 56?
If I had done that, there'd be no Cauliflower, clearly. And it may be right for some people.
Yeah.
I felt like, and I think that's what made it so hard for me to make the decision, because that's what I was always told. Take the safe route. Take the, you have a good job. Why would you want to mess it up? Why would you want to poke and provoke? Just, do your job.
Yeah.
And that was, boy, am I so glad I didn't listen.
Yeah, me too. We all are. By the way.
Thank you.
This was awesome, Gail. Thank you so much for this. If people want to find Cauliflower, they can find it. What are the social channels, by the way?
So it's at Cauliflower on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you want. We're in 30,000 stores. We're easy to find. But if you want to look for our products, because our pizzas are pretty easy to find, but some of our other products, just go on eatcaulipower.com.
Yeah.
Put the store locator and put in your zip code, and it'll tell you right where to find it near you.
And don't forget to do lady business.
And don't forget.
Thank you so much for this. And thank you for everyone for listening. Until next time, I'm Jennifer Justice.